My name is Anders, and I am 22 years old. It was 12 degrees on Christmas Eve, the kind of cold that turns the air sharp and unforgiving, where every breath feels like inhaling needles and every second outside feels longer than the last. Snow fell endlessly from a dull gray sky, covering the world in deceptive beauty while hiding how brutal the night truly was. I remember the exact moment the door slammed behind me, the sound heavy, final, like something more than wood and metal had shut me out. My father's words were still ringing in my ears. Cold and absolute. Stay outside until you learn respect. At first, I stood there in stunned silence, staring at the door, waiting for it to open again. Surely this was just another one of his dramatic gestures. Another intimidation tactic meant to scare me into apology. But the lock clicked, soft yet devastating. And reality crashed down on me harder than the freezing wind. Only minutes earlier, we had been seated around the dinner table, pretending to be a happy family. The Christmas lights glowed warmly, reflecting off polished plates and carefully arranged decorations. Everything looked perfect, staged almost, like a holiday advertisement. But beneath that polished surface, tension had always lived in our house, quiet and constant. My father had been in one of his moods, delivering his usual cutting remarks disguised as advice. He criticized the way I spoke, the way I carried myself, even the way I chose to laugh. I had endured it for years, swallowing frustration, nodding politely, shrinking myself to maintain peace. But that night, exhaustion overcame caution. When he made another comment about my attitude, I responded, and not with shouting, not with disrespect, but with a calm defense of myself. A simple sentence. A small boundary. To me, it felt reasonable. To him, it was rebellion. His expression changed instantly, warmth draining from his face as if someone had flipped a switch. The room grew tense, every movement suddenly louder. My mother looked down at her plate, as she always did when conflict approached, retreating into silence. My father's chair scraped violently against the floor as he stood, his presence dominating the room with familiar, suffocating authority. Before I could process what was happening, he was gripping my arm, his fingers tight, dragging me toward the front door. My protests were drowned by his anger, my explanations meaningless. The door opened, icy wind rushing in, and then I was outside. No coat, no boots, just shock and cold. Then came the words that would replay in my mind all night. Stay outside until you learn respect. I knocked at first, my heart pounding, embarrassment mixing with disbelief. I pleaded, promising apologies I didn't even understand. But no one answered. The house remained silent, glowing with warmth I was no longer allowed to share. Eventually, desperation gave way to numb resignation. My fingers ached, then burned, then lost sensation entirely. Snow gathered on my shoulders, my hair, my eyelashes. Time blurred into something cruel and distorted. Seeking any form of connection to the world I had been expelled from, I moved toward the side window where the curtains never fully closed. From there, I watched them open presents through the window. The scene inside felt surreal, almost unreal in its cruelty. Laughter filled the room. Wrapping paper tore. My father smiled, animated and cheerful, as though nothing extraordinary had happened. As though his daughter was not standing outside shivering in sub-zero cold. My mother's face was tight, her movements mechanical, yet she said nothing. She never did. The glowing tree lights flickered behind them, casting golden reflections that made the warmth inside feel like a different universe. I felt invisible, erased, reduced to an outsider observing a life that continued effortlessly without me. The cold began to invade deeper, no longer just discomfort, but something frightening. My teeth chattered uncontrollably. My legs trembled. A strange heaviness crept into my thoughts, dulling fear into a dangerous calm. Memories surfaced uninvited. Childhood moments of walking on eggshells. Of learning that respect meant silence, obedience, emotional restraint. I had spent years trying to be enough. To avoid triggering his temper, to maintain the fragile illusion of family harmony. Yet here I was, abandoned in the snow on Christmas Eve for daring to speak. Then suddenly, headlights cut through the darkness. The sound of tires crunching over snow shattered the eerie stillness. A long black limo rolled into the driveway, its sleek form both elegant and startlingly out of place. For a moment, I thought my mind was playing tricks on me, that the cold had begun to distort reality. Visitors like that did not belong in our quiet neighborhood. The vehicle came to a smooth stop, engine humming softly like a restrained force of nature. My heart began to race, confusion battling exhaustion. The driver's door opened first, followed by the rear passenger door with deliberate grace. And then I saw her. My grandmother stepped out, her presence commanding even in the swirling snowfall. Wrapped in a pristine coat, posture perfectly straight, she seemed untouched by the chaos of the winter night. She belonged to a world of power and certainty, a world far removed from the fragile, tense atmosphere of our home. Her sharp eyes scanned the scene, assessing, calculating, and then they landed on me. Everything changed in that instant. Her expression froze, the air itself seeming to tighten. She saw me shivering, arms wrapped tightly around myself. Snow clinging to my hair, my face pale from cold and humiliation. There was no confusion, no frantic questioning, only a slow, controlled inhale that carried something far more dangerous than anger. She turned her gaze toward the house, her eyes hardening with a terrifying clarity. Behind the glowing windows, my father's laughter continued, unaware that the night and everything he believed he controlled was about to shift forever. The snowfall seemed louder after she saw me, though in truth the night had gone completely silent. My grandmother didn't rush toward me, didn't gasp, didn't panic. That was never her way. She stood perfectly still beside the open door of the limo, her sharp eyes taking in every detail. My trembling shoulders, the thin sweater, the snow gathering in my hair, the unmistakable reality of what had been done. There was something far more unsettling than anger in her expression. It was recognition, understanding, judgment already forming. The front door burst open moments later. My father stepped outside, his confidence visibly shaken by the unexpected arrival. I had never seen him move with anything less than certainty in his own domain, yet now his posture faltered. "Mom?" he called out, forcing a brittle smile that collapsed almost instantly. "What a surprise." "We weren't expecting—" His words trailed off as he noticed where her attention was fixed, on me. Not the decorations, not the house, not him, me. For a brief second, nobody spoke. Snow drifted lazily between us, illuminated by the limo's headlights. Then my father began talking quickly, his voice edged with nervous urgency. "It's not what it looks like." Anders was being disrespectful at dinner. "I just needed her to cool off. It's a family matter." The phrase sounded rehearsed, hollow, as though he was trying to convince himself as much as anyone else. My mother appeared behind him, her face pale, eyes wide, but as always, silent. My grandmother finally turned her head. The shift in her gaze was subtle yet devastating. "A family matter?" she repeated, her voice calm, dangerously calm. "You left my granddaughter outside in 12 degrees C." Each word landed with surgical precision. There was no need for volume. Authority radiated from her without effort. My father's jaw tightened. "You don't understand," she talked back. "Kids these days have no—" "She is 22 years old," Grandma interrupted smoothly. "And even if she were 10, this would still be unacceptable." The cold air felt heavier, charged with something electric and irreversible. My father attempted another defense, but it crumbled under the weight of her stare. For the first time in my life, I saw him look uncertain, stripped of the dominance he wielded so easily inside those walls. Then she did something none of us expected. She pulled out her phone. No dramatic gestures, no theatrical threats. Just a quiet, efficient call. "Yes," she said, her tone businesslike, detached. "I want a crew dispatched, tonight." My father's face drained of color. "What crew?" he asked, his voice tightening. My grandmother ended the call and looked directly at the house, then back at him. Demolition. The word didn't feel real at first. It hung in the frozen air like an impossible concept. "Mom, don't be ridiculous," my father snapped, though the tremor in his voice betrayed him. "This is my house." Grandma's eyes narrowed slightly. "No," she replied evenly. "It is the house I paid for." The silence that followed was suffocating. My father stared at her, stunned, as though the foundation of his reality had cracked beneath his feet. "And I will not have my resources sheltering someone who treats my granddaughter with cruelty." Without another glance at him, she walked toward me. The snow crunched beneath her steps, each one deliberate, unwavering. When she reached me, her expression softened in a way that nearly broke me. She wrapped her arms around me, her coat radiating warmth, and for the first time that night, the violent shaking in my body began to slow. "You're coming with me," she said quietly, firmly. Not a suggestion. A decision. Behind us, my father's protests turned frantic, his voice rising, cracking, pleading in ways I had never heard. My mother began crying, tears streaming down her face. But still she said nothing to stop him, nothing to defend me. Years of silence had built a prison even she could not escape. Inside the limo, warmth enveloped me instantly. My frozen fingers throbbed painfully as circulation returned. Yet the physical discomfort felt distant, compared to the emotional storm raging inside me. Through the tinted window, I saw movement, vehicles arriving, workers stepping out, my father arguing helplessly, his authority meaningless against the machinery of consequence. The symbolism was brutal, almost surreal. The structure that represented his control, his pride, his power was being reduced to rubble. "Why?" I whispered, my voice shaking. "Why now?" Grandma's gaze held something deep, something sorrowful yet resolute. "Because tonight," she said softly, "I saw the truth with my own eyes." Not accusations, not interpretations. Truth. That word settled into me with a force I cannot fully describe. For years, I had been made to question my feelings, my perceptions, my pain. But now, standing on the other side of that glass, someone had witnessed it without distortion. Tears came then, unstoppable, born from years of suppressed hurt rather than the events of a single night. The cold, the humiliation, the isolation, they all collapsed into a single overwhelming release. My grandmother held my hand, steady and grounding, as the world I had known quite literally crumbled behind us. That night did not erase the past. Trauma does not vanish with a single act of justice. But it marked a beginning and the moment I understood that respect cannot be demanded through fear, that love should never be conditional, and that cruelty, even when disguised as discipline, is still cruelty. For the first time, I felt something unfamiliar yet profoundly powerful. Safety.